Hi, I'm Coach Wendy. Welcome to the next series of videos. We will continue our chess lessons to go in tandem with Chess Club. Now there are three parts to a chess game. There's the beginning, which is called the opening, the middle game, and the end game. Over the next series of lessons, we will be talking about each of these parts of the game, starting with the opening. Now in a chess game, there are three basic ways to be ahead. You can be ahead in material and pieces. You can be ahead in space on the board, controlling more squares on the board. Or you can also be ahead by having your king more safely guarded. These three ideas, having more pieces, having more material, controlling more space on the board, and keeping your king safe, are also the three guiding principles for the beginning of the game. So let's start with discussing the opening. The beginning of a chess game is called the opening because at the beginning of the chess game, your pieces are lined up behind the pawns, and in order for your pieces to get out, you need to move a pawn to open lines for your pieces to get out. As in storytelling, where most fairy tales begin with once upon a time and end with happily ever after, most chess games begin, their once upon a time begins with moving a center pawn. The reason that you want to move a center pawn is because it helps you control the center squares. The center squares on a chessboard are the most important squares in the opening, and here's why. Now, at the beginning of a chess game, when you move out your pieces, you want your pieces to come to the center of the board, because in the center of the board, they are the most powerful. They control more squares. For example, this knight is in the center of the board, and from this square, he controls these squares. Notice when the knight is on a light square, he can move to a dark square. So he's only controlling dark squares from that vantage point. But he controls 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 squares. From the center of the board, the knight controls all these squares in a circle around him. Now, if we were to move him to the side of the board, we often have a saying, knight on the border out of order, or knight on the rim pretty grim. And the reason we have that is because from the side of the board, the knight only controls half of that circle. The other circle exists off the board, but as we know, we can't play off the board. So moving the knight to the rim cuts the knight's power in half. He now only controls 4 squares. Now, if we were to put our opponent's bishop in the center where the knight just was, notice that this bishop now takes away all 4 squares. If the knight is on the side and your opponent's bishop is here, the knight now cannot move here, or the bishop takes, so he doesn't have that square anymore. If the knight moves here, bishop takes, so the knight doesn't have that anymore. If he moves here, bishop takes, the knight doesn't have that square. The knight moves here, bishop takes, so the knight on the side of the board is trapped. Let's reverse their roles. Bishop comes here. Normally, and if the bishop moves here, the knight takes. Can't go there. If the bishop moves here, knight takes. Can't go here. Bishop can go here, but if he goes here, knight takes, he can't go there. If he goes here, knight takes, he can't go here. So on the side of the board, the bishop only has 1, 2, 3 squares. If the bishop is in the center of the board, he can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I'm out of Post-its, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 squares. Your pieces are much more powerful in the center of the board. So in the opening, when you're bringing out your pieces, bring them to the center. Here's how the opening looks. Once upon a time, center pawn moves out, releasing the bishop and the queen. That's a good move for black as well. Now, remember I said that one of the ways to be ahead in a game is to have more material or more pieces on the board. If you leave your pieces on the back rank, it's as if they're off the board. You need to bring your pieces out onto the playing field, not leave them by the sidelines. Move pieces, not pawns. These are the pieces, and when you bring them out, because they want to be controlling the center, you move them towards the center. This knight attacks this pawn. This knight comes out and defends the pawn. Again, you want to move pieces, not pawns, because that's how you get ahead in material. Move out the knights, you might move out another knight towards the center, where the knight is most powerful. Bring out your bishops. Bishops could go here, controlling the center, or here, attacking the knight. Bishop comes out. Now we have 2 knights and a bishop out, 2 knights and a bishop. You want to bring out knights and bishops before queens and rooks. The queens and the rooks are going to help protect your king. Queens and rooks are very powerful, but they move better on an open board at the end of the game. Your knights and your bishops. Knights can jump on a crowded board. Bishops can slip through pieces on the diagonals. So your bishops and knights come out early. The last thing you want to think about in the opening, but also important, is the safety of your king. Remember, that's another way to be ahead in a chess game. So with all of these lions and tigers and bears coming in, the king wants to run into his castle and slam the door behind him, and he does that by that very special king move called castling. He goes 1, 2, Scooby-Doo. King runs into the closet and slams the door behind him. Now you've done the 3 things you need to do in the opening. You're controlling the center, you're getting out your pieces, and your king is safe.